All right, today we're going to jump into another quote. This was something that actually came to me, and it actually worked out really well in the last episode. So, if you're catching us for the very first time, welcome. But I encourage you to go back to the last episode. We dove into a different quote. But today we're going to talk about the late, great Steve Jobs and a quote that he gave to a commencement speech. I believe it was with Harvard. I don't have that information here. But, anyways, it was with a college. And it talked about, well, let me just read the quote, and then we'll have a discussion about that. This is, like I said, from Steve Jobs. He says, or he said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. End quote. And so I thought that would be a fun discussion to have. As I mentioned in the last episode, I was trying to help you think through if you're stuck in a position, if you're in the W 2 world or any situation for that matter, and you know you need to make a change, but you're uncertain as far as the dots. And we'll just refer to them as dots because that's kind of what the quote was today. But you're uncertain about the steps or the dots moving forward. And that's what's keeping you stuck. That's keeping you from making the decision, number one, and then taking steps, gradual steps towards this outcome that you're looking for. That's kind of what this is all about. You're not going to be able to see the dots moving forward or see the next steps every step of the way from point A to point B, but you can looking backwards, which is what, that's, when you think about it, that how ironic that really is. When I think back about the things that I've accomplished or the people that I've met or the decisions that I've made, business decisions that I've made, you realize that, wow, had I not done that or met this person at that particular time or that particular moment, so many things have unfolded because of that. So once again, it's just a fun experiment to actually look backwards and connect those dots, but it's always uncertain when you're looking forward to connect those dots. And that's where sometimes I think we have that disconnect of thinking that we need to have that full picture in front of us sometimes, when in reality, that's not the case. Any thoughts on that quote, Greg?
It makes you realize how important everyday choices really are. Because exactly what you said, going back 2 years ago, you could have met somebody who gave you an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, and you might not be living in Indiana. You could be living in Italy right now or somewhere else where you're like, oh, this is a great opportunity. But you would only know that looking backwards. You wouldn't predict, I'm going to meet this person and we're going to have this conversation and it's going to lead to this. And wow, my life has changed dramatically for the good or for the bad. It could be either way. So I think it really highlights just how important our everyday, sometimes mundane choices that we think are set in stone, how important they really are. Because I was talking to my wife about this the other day, because I'm in my mid 40s and have a lot of options of what I can do. And I told her it's kind of like one of those TV shows where they show the main character, he chooses to be a policeman. That's what his life looks like. Then he's a nurse. What does that life look like? Completely different. And then there's another one where he's a rock star, completely different. And it all comes down to what's that one choice. And he could have, it's just amazing how important those decisions are, the big ones and the little ones, because the little ones lead to the big ones usually.
How often have you, Greg, so this question to you, how often have you realized that some of those decisions in the day-to-day moments are that important? Do you realize that in the time? Do you realize that making the choice to turn left instead of turn right, or go meet this person, introduce yourself to this individual, or read this book, or listen to this podcast, anything like that pop up as far as like you realize, once again, looking backwards, you realize how important that it was, but in the moments, it's like it doesn't really feel like it's that important.
I think you said it there. Looking back, it's so easy, but in the moment, it just feels like a decision and life is happening. It doesn't feel like a really big decision. And a buddy recently told me, when you have two decisions and you choose one of them, it's just a decision. It's not a loss of the other one. It's not the opportunity cost. It is, but if you want to keep your sanity and your mental health, it's just a decision that you made in life, and go with that. Go down that path. Don't get into the thinking of, I wonder if I was a cop, what would that life look like? Because it's not going to serve you. And chances are you're going to paint that picture of, man, I would have been a great cop. I would have been this. It would have been amazing, where it could have been really bad. Obviously it's a dangerous job as an example. So it was, Yeah, it's just really being aware of your thoughts. But to answer your question, no, it's usually me looking back and thinking, "Oh, that was a really big decision I made." But in the moment, it's very hard to be for me to be that aware.
I've been going down, digging deeper into Earl Nightingale's work here lately, going into The Strangest Secret, which is an audio program that he created. I think back in 1958 is when think I saw that was produced, which is obviously a long time ago today. But the thing he was always stressing, and I've always tried to do for myself, once again, is to set that crystal clear goal, that vision that you have for yourself out in the future. And by doing that, you begin to start getting the puzzle pieces in place for you to make the right steps at the right time. If you have crystal clear clarity where you want to go. And I think sometimes we, because of doubts, because of fears, because of judgments, because of all kinds of things, we don't allow ourselves to have that vision of exactly what it is that we're looking for, that goal that we've got set for ourselves. And because of that, say we do set the goal, and that creates that gap. You've got your moment today when you set the goal, and then obviously this future date, this thing you want to accomplish, and it's that space, it's that gap in between. It's like, oh my gosh, how in the world am I going to be able to achieve that? And whatever time frame you want to set it up, whether it's days, weeks, months. But Earl and what he taught, and what I want to definitely stress here today, was that just having the goal itself is the only step you need to do from the beginning. Get crystal clear on exactly what you're looking for. From that moment, you will start to get ideas. You'll see different things. You'll have different opportunities show up for you. And when you see them, because of this clarity, you'll be able to take steps and take actions into them easier than if you're just going through your mundane, everyday ho hum life. I, for the longest time, was doing that. I didn't necessarily have many goals for myself or for my family. And because of that, I let the Monday, everyday activities, everyday stuff overwhelm me, make me anxious, all different kinds of things. But when I've gotten crystal clear, and I would, readily say that there's different times that I'm not as clear as I want to be. But referring back to the episode we just had, talking about when I made that crystal clear decision that time freedom was what I wanted the most. And so I had to figure out how I was going to get out of that job. And I picked the date. I picked the date on the calendar. That was my goal. I had to leave, and I wanted to leave that company at that date or by that date. When I did that, the ideas started to flow. The idea of reaching out to the friend of mine that had this different position came to me. Obviously, then I interviewed and did all those kind of the steps that came in between there. But had I been afraid to pick that date in advance, set that clear goal, the ideas wouldn't have came. And so that's what I want to stress with you here today. As far as connecting the dots forward is nearly impossible because you don't know the different steps that are going to be required for you to achieve that goal. Start with the goal first, and then start taking progress, some steps towards that, towards that goal as best as you possibly can. It can be a book you need. You can be a podcast you need to listen to. It could be a friend you need to reach out to. It could be an advisor you need to reach out to. I, for example, are going through some different challenges, looking at some different business opportunities, that type of thing. I reached out to a person that I hadn't actually spoken to in probably close to 10 years. And we got on the phone and started talking like we had never left. Like it was like we were best friends, like all over again. He gave me so much wisdom, so much knowledge, so much input in that very short period of time that helped me get some more clarity into this goal that I've got set for myself, which has then allowed me then to take more steps, filling in those gaps or filling in those dots to this ultimate goal outlined to myself. So don't be afraid to ask for help as well. Definitely want to leave that one in that part as well. Any more thoughts as far as that goal and that achievement and that having that crystal clear vision of exactly what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, exactly. What you said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but I think we all want to because it gives, at least for me, it gives me that security of, oh, well, if I know I'm going to get there, then taking the action steps is going to be easy. If you're, if you know you're going to ask a girl out and you know that she likes you, chances are it's going to be pretty easy to, go up to her or, do your thing. But if you don't know and we don't know the future, you're taking that risk of, rejection and fear and all that kind of stuff. And not just with the girl, with business, with everything. So that's one thing that I've been guilty of is overthinking, and it causes pausing and procrastinating and really just putting that goal off because the goal is still there. I'm just putting it off because I'm wondering, well, I don't really see the next step, or and maybe I don't have the confidence to see myself doing the daily tasks to achieve that goal. But one thing I heard the other day in personal development is if you're going to fail, you might as well fail fast. So, if it's right for you or not, talking about from our last podcast episode, going down different paths and choosing, if you're going to go down a path and it's not the right one, you don't want to spend 20 years on that path because you're going to kick yourself because that's not the success in a life that I don't want. That's exactly what we talked about last time. So if you're going to fail, you might as well fail fast and then back up and then reevaluate and take action and keep on going until, like you said, that gut feeling is correct. It's not that this doesn't feel right. We all have that kind of feeling and we know when it feels right and we know when it doesn't.
When you have that clear vision of what you're looking for and you have a certain amount of advisors, right? Some people to bounce some ideas off of. One thing I heard a long time ago, and this kind of resonates with what you just shared there, Greg, as far as like successful, wealthy individuals make decisions very quickly and they change their minds very slowly, meaning so they get an idea or they get an opportunity maybe presented to them and they can, based on their goal, based on the vision of where they're headed, can make a decision very quickly because it either fits or it doesn't fit with the vision of what they're trying to accomplish. That's the clarity. That's what I'm trying to bring to the table as far as getting people to understand that if you just think through, where is it that you're actually headed? What is it that you're actually looking for as far as this goal? And then, like you said, fail forward and fail fast and fail often, meaning failure is not, it's not a thing, meaning it's not something to be afraid of. It's just a learning tool. It's the opportunity to realize, okay, I could have done better or I should have done better, maybe something like that. It's not something that needs to derail you from moving forward. It needs to just be a lesson that you can learn from and then continue to step into whatever that bigger vision is of yourself. One thing that I'm trying to do a lot different for myself also is I'm trying to think bigger, meaning I'm trying to, the problems that keep arriving in my life, I think it's because I'm not thinking big enough solutions for them. I keep trying to solve the same challenges that keep showing up in my life with the same thought processes and the same resources that I've used up to this point in my life. And I think that's why they keep showing up is because I'm not thinking big enough as far as a solution. Any thoughts on that even part of it? Yeah, the thinking bigger I know it's been a challenge for me because I've always played small, and I think it's just more of at a safety for myself, and I'm trying to get myself to stretch, trying to get myself to grow towards this bigger version of myself.
Man, you and I are in the same boat. Thinking big is, I mean, for me, thinking big is easy, but taking the action steps, that's the scary part because you're putting, maybe everything on the line or cash on the line or whatever that is. It's really hard, but thinking big all day long. You can do a dream board, you can write out what your future looks like, but yeah, taking those action steps, that's when reality hits you in the face like, am I really doing this? Am I capable? And that's where limiting beliefs come in, your standards come in. And one thing in one of my meditations they always say is my decisions today will create my tomorrow. So I do that every morning, usually every morning. And that's one thing that's kind of burned in my brain. And talking about the little decisions that lead to bigger ones, that's kind of something that kind of cues in my brain of my decisions today do matter. And like you said earlier, it's hard to be in the moment when you're making a decision like, oh, this is going to matter in 5 years. It may or may not, but having that at least in my meditation of my decisions do matter today. So maybe I should slow down a little bit. Maybe I should speed up some of my decisions, like you said, and just pull the trigger and go. But knowing when to do either one of those, that's where personal development comes in and really knowing your situation and what you want to achieve.
Does that go into last episode you mentioned about acceptance and awareness? Does that go into that? Is that kind of where you pulled that from? That's kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, you can definitely tie that into acceptance. And yeah, that's a really good tie in. I didn't even like consciously put that together, but yeah, that's a great tie in.
So just accepting where you're at in those moments but realizing that you have the opportunity to make different decisions all the time. That's when you were saying that, that's kind of the thoughts that were going through my mind in real time. So how do you, or do you, when you have an opportunity to think bigger, like you said, thinking bigger is easy, meaning that's the easier part. You can dream big and all that kind of stuff. But when it's time to, when the rubber meets the road and it's time to start stepping into those bigger feelings or bigger actions, is there anything you do? Do you try to get yourself motivated? Do you listen to certain things? Do you call certain people? What is it that you do for yourself? Anything specific?
I mean, usually when I have a big decision, I rely on friends and family to give me advice or look at it from a different perspective because we all have our blind spots, especially being in the situation. Whereas somebody like you, if I tell you a situation, you A, might have been through that before or, have some experience, but B, you're not me. So you think differently. So for me, it's the answer is A, but then you can say, well, have you thought of B and C? Like, oh, I didn't even know there was a B and C. And then all of a sudden it's, well, what if it was C all of a sudden? Because my mind thinks a little bit differently. So that's one thing that I really rely on is my friends and family just to say, hey, let me bounce this idea off you. What am I missing? If you were me, if you were you, what would you do? So again, just leaning on people that I know, like, and trust in my friends and family group.
How hard? I agree with that 100%. That was fantastic. But how hard is it for you to hear what they're saying? Meaning, because it's going up against whether it's your comfort zone or the things you believe, because you're kind of stuck in your own rut. Do you have a challenge when it comes to there again, the acceptance? Do you have a challenge accepting kind of what's being told to you before you can start taking action? Any thoughts on that?
I personally don't. I think it's cool because it's it's like education. It's like, oh, I didn't know that before you told me that. So sometimes it's a little frustrating because then it makes the decision a little bit harder for sure. Because you're like, oh, you have a point, Randy. I could do, option C. And now that's really confusing me because A sounded like really, really good to me. But at the same time, I really like it because it's a learning opportunity. And like you said, it could be one of those decisions that, C opens a door that I never knew existed. And my life, goes in a better direction or whatever that looks like. So for me, I don't think I look at it as a learning experience. How about yourself?
I like that. Meaning, but I would probably say for myself, I get challenged with it more so, where it would send me into a negative rabbit hole. I've struggled with my own negative self doubt and all those kinds of things for so long that a lot of times my simple thing to do would just be to shut things down. We were having a discussion before we hit record here on this one. We're trying to look through different opportunities, different things like that. It's always just been easier for me to turn and shut things down. I had, so you find advisors or you find friends, you find people that you can uh, give some information to try to receive some information back. And when they give it back to me, I'm speaking for myself. It's almost like I start beating myself. Well, why didn't I see that? Or why didn't I hear that correctly? Or what was, why didn't I see it in that way? And when I do that, I'm getting better at it. But I will tell you that in the past, I would allow myself then to just start beat myself up, just start thinking that, yeah, that I wasn't good enough, that I should have seen that in advance, or I should not have taken that step. And when I would do that to myself, then it would keep me from continuing to step forward. I'm trying not to do that this time, through your advice and through some advice from another friend of mine, trying to make sure that I step into what I can do and taking it, like you said, taking it as a learning opportunity, then to apply it and then to continue to move forward versus just shutting it all down, which has definitely been that's been my past for sure.
One other thing I'll say too is when I bounce an idea off of a friend, I'm in the emotional state and logical state. So sometimes it could be more emotional that I'm thinking of that problem. Whereas if I tell you a problem and you tell me a problem, I'm like, oh, the simple logical answer is this. I'm not emotionally involved in, you know, the situation. So if you're asking me for advice, or if I'm asking myself for advice, it's two very different conversations. And that's why I ask other people because they're not emotionally tied to my decision. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in there because that's a key distinction.
That's why it's so easy when you're seeing other people to, I mean, it's like you can pick their life apart. It's like they should be doing this and they could be doing this. And it's especially even the people that are close to you. Like, so it's like my wife, you can see all the things that she does fantastic, which is a lot of things. And it's like, you should be doing, but she doubts herself in this area of her life or that, you know what I mean? It's so close to you, your, like you said, your emotional state that you don't necessarily see beyond that layer to all the good things that you've got going on. So getting that kind of that third party vision of yourself from where you're going, I see that. That's definitely very, very important, which goes back into the relationship that you and I've built, Greg, as far as the ability for us to hop on a call or hop on whether it's a Zoom call like this or whatever, something like that. Just have a conversation, dialogue back and forth. What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? And then just bouncing ideas back and forth. But then allowing you, and that's why I was curious on how you were able to accept them, because that's part of the problems that you brought that word to the podcast. And I love that. I have a problem sometimes accepting outside influences or outside ideas when they push up against my comfort zone so severely. Once again, I'm working on that all the time and I'm trying to get better at that, which there again, those small decisions lead to the bigger outcomes moving forward. If I can move beyond that, I can see where I might be able to accomplish greater things in a relatively short period of time just because I'm able to keep moving forward. I'm not willing to just shut it down and forget about it. It's been, you say that, that's like, yes, that's me 100%. Raising my hand on that one, man. 100%.
And one other thing too that you can ask yourself is, what if I'm thinking about this wrong or incorrectly? And then it kind of just flips it if you can stay in that logical state. And I think that's what your friends and family do, is if they're thinking about it differently, they're just giving you that perspective. But you can maybe journal about it. I know you do a lot of journaling. You say,
Yes.
this is my decision. This is the reason why I'm making this decision. What if I made the opposite decision? Or what if I'm thinking about this totally wrong, about thinking big, like you're talking about? It's just another question you can ask yourself. And it challenges yourself. If you're able to do that, some people are, some people aren't, but it could be a great, prompt for a journal, or just, sitting, thinking by yourself, that kind of thing.
Journaling, folks, I'm telling you, it's the greatest thing. It's helped me so much, and it's something that I can turn to all the time. It can see growth in real time, meaning you can see where I was even just a few weeks ago, a few days ago. Now I've gotten a couple of 2 or 3 years worth of journals. Anyways, I definitely recommend you dive into that practice if you possibly can. It will help you more than you can imagine, for sure. So, yeah, connecting those dots forward. You can't always do it easily moving forward because you don't necessarily know all the steps it's going to take for you to reach that goal. But it is a lot easier than to look backwards and to connect the dots. And it's always interesting to then look back on those steps. So, man, I appreciate the conversation today. Is there anything else you want to leave the folks here with as we start to bring this one in for a close today?
I think just it's basically trusting yourself, right? In the journey that you're going to go on, because you're going to go on a journey no matter what. Your future is there. And it's just a belief that, your past experiences don't dictate your future. Your decisions today dictate your future. And that kind of goes into identity, but I'm not going to, go there. But that's what I would end it with, is just trust yourself and trust those decisions and the friends and family around you.
And we appreciate the decision you made to join us here today on this Rich Mind podcast. We appreciate it a whole lot. We're trying to obviously add as much value as we possibly can into your life. And if you wouldn't mind heading over to your podcast platform of choice and leave us a review, we would greatly appreciate that. Try to help us spread the message of the Rich Mind podcast as far and as wide as you possibly can. So don't let the fear of this unknown future, meaning you've got a goal set for yourself, don't let the unknown steps that are required to get you to that in destination keep you from moving forward. As I've mentioned, I've allowed so many different things to keep me playing small for such a long time that I've really had to step out of my own comfort zone, find folks like Greg, like this other friend of mine named Matt, that's been really helping me try to think through different ideas and have them help you through those processes. And if we can do that in any way here on the podcast, we'd love to do that for you as well. You can always reach out to us, info@richmind.co, and drop us a note. Let us know kind of where you're at in your life. If we can obviously help you in any way, we'd love to do that as much as we possibly can, also moving forward. So, I think we're going to leave it there. Have a fantastic day. We appreciate your time and attention, and we look forward to coming back with the next episode again very soon. Until then, folks, bye now.